do you think we've even considered fully what the implications of adopting this kind of always-on connectedness that or pseudo-connectedness that we're now in? I mean, I don't know what some of the great teachers that you've worked with would say about this kind of culture, and the fact that some nations are now talking about putting traffic lights on the floor, so that people who are using their mobile phones don't try and cross the road when the green man isn't there. That, you know, kind of, and it's almost like we seem to be abdicating and accommodating it. Right? I just wondered what your views would be on that.
Well, first of all, I need to own up. I'm a bit of a Luddite. I could cheerfully take an axe to the average piece of technology, including television, but that's just my way. I do realize that technology has given us some extraordinary gifts. However, I think we're becoming a little bit blind. Two things. First off, I was having a conversation in Germany a couple of weeks back, 3 weeks back, and it was with people in Stuttgart, and they were talking about the driverless car and how exciting. And I don't know whether you know, but the car companies all over the world are putting money into driverless electric cars. This is the big thing. This is the future. And one of the guys in the circle that I was in said, do you realize that if we all get driverless electric cars, most men over the age of 50 of a certain background will be put out of work overnight? Vans, taxis, buses, trucks. Think about that. Men whose egos are really delicate anyway are suddenly going to be deprived of their livelihood on top of all the other crap that's coming at them. I think there's a law of unintended consequences that comes with technology. And we don't do the... I remember being told by one of the shamans that I work with, who said that you need to make a sacrifice whenever you create something. That you need, if you create a knife, you need to create a sacrifice for the knife. Because if you don't, it'll come for you. And in a way, I think technology can come for us. I really think it can. And I think we're naive around it at the moment. And I think we need to take it more seriously. I think that there's also there's another thing that, and I'm gonna riff on this one while I'm here. Captive audience, lock the door. There's a man called David Abram who wrote a very interesting book called The Spell of the Sensuous. You may have come across it. He posited a very interesting idea, which is that our alienation, our problem, if you like, began with the alphabet. When we started with the alphabet, we stopped locking on to nature, and we began to cathect, to literally lock onto the word. And we separated from sound. We separated from nature. Is this making sense? I think we're into a second separation now. I think we're into the separation to the screen, which is a separation to an image of the word, which is another separation. So I think we're into two separations from nature. Now, my premise is that if you're in a relationship with nature, you're less likely to kill it, to be frank. You're less likely to destroy it. And the conversations we used to have, many of us years ago, we'd have conversations around, what do you do when you've done your men's work? What do you do when you've done your work? And the big thing was, some of the guys said we do work with youth. We do the work that a Band of Brothers is doing today. And other guys said we need to work with the environment. Now I think we started making strides in terms of Band of Brothers, but I also think that there's something where we need to begin to reconnect with nature, to reconnect people to nature. And I don't mean outward bound, I mean soul connection. So that the individual soul could connect with the greater soul. Because unless we love it, we're going to kill it. And I don't know how we're going to find a way. You know, it's difficult. They were 20 years ago, these guys, Bly and Hillman and Mead and these guys, they were talking about us destroying the world. They were talking about social breakdown. They were talking about it getting a lot worse before it got better. Well, I hope it gets better, you know. But it's a difficult thing to face. But I think that the one thing we need to do is we need, as men here, and I'm speaking here as a man, but as men, we need to get out there and we need to start doing things. And forgive me for saying this, but saving the world one man at a time with 4.5 billion men in the world is a bit of a stretch. And I think we need, on top of what we're doing with the groups that we're working with, on top of working with mentoring, we need to be getting out there and proselytizing. We need to be getting out there and telling people. And we need to be getting out there with our art. We need to be getting out there with our work, with our healing, with our therapy, with our this, with our that. And we need to be saying, stop it. Because we don't have time. We don't have time to wait for it to kind of get better. 20 years ago, these guys were saying it was going to go to hell in a handbasket. And I was thinking, pfft. And it did. And I think that's a thing we need to really take care of. So I'm not decrying in any way the work that Band of Brothers does, but somehow along the way we also need to be meeting a wider audience and telling people that things need to be changed. And I think the only way we can do that is through art. I call it the bardic role. There's a bit in the book about it. And it's you know, get up, make a fool of yourself. You know, do a Banksy. Make a song. Make a movie. Tell your truth. Stand up and tell your truth. And I think that's a way that we as men, as well as women in their way, can I've seen a number of women over the last 25 years who have stepped into their power in an extraordinary way through art, through healing, through whatever it is. And I think maybe we need to be doing that as men. We need the courage to stand up and take our art forward. I know an awful lot of men I've met in men's work who have ambition when it comes to art, but somehow they say, oh, I don't do that. I don't do that. That's not me. And I think that's belittling ourselves. Because I know in ritual, everyone's an artist. That's the one thing I've learned. Everyone's an artist. And at that point, we need to start telling people. So, I don't know if that's at all helpful, but there we are.